Hello, everybody. I'm Ian Nicholas, joined by my co-host Cortland Parrott, and today we have a very special guest, New Canaan basketball coach Danny Melzer. This is episode 2 of the Rams Revealed podcast, where we interview the important figures in the sports community here at New Canaan. We did Coach Jason Miska in episode 1, and we're honored to be joined by Coach Melzer today. Coach, how you feeling at home in our Corona break, in a sense?
Doing great. I appreciate you guys having me. The New Canaan community, the high school, they're very lucky to have you guys and NCTV. You guys do a really great job, and I want to thank you on behalf of the basketball program, the coverage that you provide for us, the excitement you guys bring around our sport, top notch, and we're very very grateful for that. And I want to thank you personally. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for saying that.
Well,
So we're gonna start talking about your playing career back in high school, your path, and then we'll get into college coaching and what you want to do in the future. So you went to Stanford High School. You played basketball, of course. You were also a baseball pitcher, right?
Yes.
And what did you prefer? Were you 50-50? Were you still basketball back then, or what was that like?
Growing up, when I was much younger, I probably preferred baseball over basketball. I was probably a better baseball player than I was basketball player. So I kind of leaned toward baseball a lot of the time. But as I got older, I really gained a passion for basketball and kind of just played baseball when it was baseball season. I played AAU basketball and I played baseball, so it was very hard to do both. So as I got older, I started to play more AAU basketball and started to play a little less of baseball. I loved both. But as I got older, my passion for basketball grew. So I kind of started to spend more time playing basketball and kind of just played baseball during the high school season and then in the summer too. So, but they're both great sports. And, I'm sure you guys feel the same way, that we're eagerly anticipating them coming back, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Hopefully. And then we have, your basketball coach in high school, the longtime Stanford coach, Jim Moriarty, who you have a lot of respect for, and you've called him one of the greatest coaches you've ever worked with. And then obviously after your college career, which we'll touch on in a second, you coached under him for 7 years before you got the Stanford job and he became the athletic director. But talk to us a little bit about the relationship you had with him in high school, and then how that developed post-college and into your coaching career, and what kind of guy he was and how he influenced your early athletic career.
So Mo is one of the most influential people in my life. He not just from a basketball standpoint, from just teaching me how to become a young man and teaching me, the responsibilities of what it means to be on a team and what it means to be a student. He's an excellent history teacher as well. Mm-hmm. And so, it was playing for him was a challenge. He always pushed us. He always got the most out of us. He never let us give less than everything we had. And, as a kid, sometimes that's hard to appreciate. But looking back on my career, I wouldn't have been the player I was without him, and all the things that I learned from him. So it was challenging at times to play for him, but at the same time, very rewarding. And I owe a lot of who I am as a person and who I was as a player, and now who I am as a coach. I owe a lot of that to Mo. So I'm very grateful to have had him in my life as a coach. Once I got out of college and started coaching with him, I learned even more about coaching once I was his assistant. So many different things, not just about basketball, but how to treat young kids, how to be a good role model for kids, how to get the most out of your players. And he just taught me so many different things over the course of 7 years of coaching with him that I still carry on with me today.
Now, was he someone that inspired you to start coaching, or what wanted you to coach? Was it the desire to teach the game?
Yeah, when I graduated college, I graduated with a sociology degree. which didn't really steer me in any direction. I kind of graduated college not knowing what I wanted to do. So I started taking odd jobs, bartending, waiting tables, kind of just, being a kid, being 22 years old and figuring it out. And he reached out to me saying that he needed a freshman coach and wanted to know if I wanted to do it. So I said, sure, why not? I've got a lot of free time. Let me give it a shot. And my first day of practice, that's when I realized, oh my God, I really want to do this. I really want to be a coach. I love this. This is what I was meant to be. And so from that day forward, I decided to dedicate myself to coaching. And after talking with some of my family members, my aunt Sandra's a former teacher. She basically steered me in the direction of becoming a teacher. So I decided to go back to school to become a teacher and to be a coach. And so I really owe it to Mo for giving me that opportunity to be the freshman coach. And then I owe it to my aunt Sandra for kind of helping me realize that teaching and coaching really go hand in hand.
And I know we're going to talk more about your Stanford career, obviously, as a coach, but when you came here to New Canaan 4 years ago, a big thing for you, obviously, here was you became the first head basketball coach to also teach the high school since the legendary Don Usher back in 1994. And I guess, how important is it that you are able to see your guys every day, not just in practice, but also just walking around the halls, and you get to become a part of the community here? How important is that for you to be a part of the school and not just a basketball coach?
To me, it's extremely important. And I think to Mr. Egan, the athletic director, that was one of the things we spoke at length about when we discussed me coming here, was the importance of having a coach in the building, a head coach in the building as a teacher as well. So I think it's extremely important that the kids understand that we're not just coaches, that we're teachers first, we're educators first, and that's our profession. Coaching is just something we do in addition, but our profession is educators, and that's why I believe so heavily in my coaching staff. All of us are educators. All of us work with kids for a living, and I think that's so important in coaching high school sports. And so I think you see the translation to how we do things, how we treat the kids, how we place the value of education and the value of learning and everything that we do. So to be a teacher in the building and to be a coach, to me, is a home run. And I think that's part of the reason why our athletic department is so successful, is because we've got so many teachers that are coaches as well. And I think those two things go really hand in hand.
You mentioned your coaching staff, many of which you brought from Stanford to New Canaan. One of those being Mike TISH, my JV baseball coach. He was on the baseball team back in 2001 when you guys won the state championship, I believe. Is that right?
No. Tish is much younger than that. I was on the 2001 state championship team. Tish was on the 2009 FCAC championship team.
He's a young gun.
So Tish. My first year coaching was Tish's freshman year. So he was the first.
So you coached him.
What's that?
You coached him.
I did. My first team that I ever coached was his freshman team. So, it's very special to have him part of the staff, because he and I, have such a strong relationship from when he was a player and I was a coach. And then when he came on my staff coming out of college, he was kind of in the same boat when he got out of college. He wasn't really sure what he wanted to do, but he loved coaching. He loved being with kids. And so he kind of took the same path that I did and got into coaching, went back to school to become a teacher. And now he's, teaching health at Saxon and just doing a phenomenal job of that. So I'm really proud and happy for him and to see him be so successful. And he's a major reason why our basketball program has been so successful.
And he also, this year, is his first year as the JV basketball coach, right? And how would you say, because you've known him when he was a young athlete, and now you know him as, I guess, maybe not your right-hand man, but in a sense, coming over from Stanford, he was one of the key guys you needed if you wanted to move here. And I guess what I want to ask is, what do you see in him? Because I know he's a fiery guy and he likes to bring that passion. I know Cortland and I were talking about that beforehand. And even if you go back to that state championship game against Granby, when you guys got a big lead, he was just going nuts in that game. So I guess I want to ask, like, when do you know as a coach, like, when to use that emotion that you have? Because I know he loves to bring it onto the floor, and it really shows when he's talking with the guys and when he's even in game as an assistant next to you in varsity, like what he brings to the table in that regard.
Yeah, he's excellent at motivating the kids. I think the kids really enjoy playing for him. You know, Cortland can speak on that. He's loud. He's very, very loud. So sometimes
Oh, I
I
know.
think yeah, I'm sure you know. I'm sure some people may interpret that as yelling at the kids, but it's really not so much yelling at the kids as it is helping them do the right thing and helping motivate them to play better and do the things that they practice. So he's got such a great rapport with the kids. I think his our first year was with these seniors. So his first freshman class was these seniors that are graduating now. So he's been with them for 4 years, and I think they have a tremendous amount of respect for him. And it's not a coincidence. It's because how great he is with the kids and how much passion he shows every day and how much effort he gives every day. I think the kids really respect that.
And then moving on from your high school career, you went to Connecticut College. You played a few years of basketball there. And then you said you went back to school because you're on and you want to show teaching. And then you transitioned into coaching. So you were assistant for 7 years, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then in 2012, you were the head coach?
Yeah. So I was the head coach at Sanford High for 4 years, and then came here, and now I've just completed my 4th year as head coach at New Canaan. So 7 years assistant, 8 years as head coach.
And in those 4 years at Stanford, you went 51-38. What was the atmosphere around the Stanford program back then? Was it you're always a contender, or was it you have to battle for wins?
Well, our first year was a little bit of a rebuilding year. You know, it was my first year as a head coach, which at 29, I believe I was 29. You know, was a major learning experience for me. And so it was a rebuilding year. It was kind of everyone kind of getting used to a new situation. I mean, Mo had been the head coach for 32, 33 years. So it was a major learning curve for myself, for my coaches, for the kids. And so we struggled a little bit that year. Then the next 3 years, we really turned it around and we made the FCX playoffs all 3 years and became a contender. So, you know, it was a learning experience for me and for the kids. But I think once we established, you know, kind of our new norms and kind of how we were going to do things and our expectations, I think the kids really adjusted well. And we really, you know, were very competitive the next 3 years with some really talented players.
And then obviously you came here to New Canaan, which was a situation where you could have easily stayed in Stanford, and you were born and raised there. I don't know if it was your dream job once you started coaching and you started that passion to get the job, but you got it and then you had success with it. But then did you see a similar situation in New Canaan where you saw a team that hadn't been successful in a long time, but I saw you said you were on the record saying this is an awesome sports town, but it wasn't really a basketball town. So how important was it for you in your next challenge in life to I guess not stay complacent and pick up a new challenge here at New Canaan? And how do you feel that you've transformed New Canaan into somewhat of a basketball town now over the 4-year, I guess, rebuilding process? And it only took you 2 years here, but how did that Stanford time equip you to handle the rebuilding process? And how do you think it's paid off so far in your early run here?
Yeah, listen, leaving Stanford High, my alma mater, my hometown, born and raised, it was an extremely, extremely difficult decision for me. One that I spent a lot of time thinking about and talking to a lot of different people. I spoke to several people that had Stanford High ties and New Canaan ties. Tony Pavia, the former principal at New Canaan, was also our principal at Stanford High.
Oh.
Art Brown, Coach Brown, who coaches girls track and girls cross country at New Canaan currently, was my cross country coach when I was at Stanford High. So I'm very close with him. Mrs. Cohen, who is a history teacher at New Canaan currently, but she was a history teacher at Stanford High before that, and several others with Stanford High and New Canaan ties. And I really talked it over with a bunch of people and went over the pros and cons. But ultimately, it was a decision that I felt was best for myself and best for my family. I've got, three kids now. At the time, I had two. And so our kids are, lucky enough to be attending New Canaan public schools now. Well, our oldest, Riley, she's in kindergarten at West. And that was a major factor in the decision to have that opportunity to send my kids to New Canaan schools. And another factor was the opportunity to kind of start my own program. I mean, yes, Stanford High was that opportunity as well, but I was already on the staff. It was already established. It was already, it was kind of as if I was picking up where Mo left off to a certain extent. Yep. And New Canaan was an opportunity for me to completely start fresh. And it was a huge challenge, and it was something that I was looking forward to taking on. And one of the key factors in me coming here was being able to bring my coaches with me, and a lot of the coaches came with me, which was a non-negotiable. I wouldn't have left if they weren't up for the challenge with me. Mike Macchio, Mike Tisha, and Adrian Arango were the three that initially came over with me. And there's been some turnover, and obviously we had Zach Smith this year, who was originally on my staff at Stanford High and then got the head job at Stanford High. And then, it was a challenge, but it was something that we were up for. We knew that we had to come in and, build on some foundations that we built at Stanford High. But we also knew that we were dealing with a totally different situation, totally different challenges, totally different positives, totally different negatives. And one of the things that we've learned is that, no situation is perfect. There's challenges at any school, at any town. And so we wanted to come in here and figure out what those challenges were first, and then figure out how we were going to navigate through them. And I think, one of the major things that we've been fortunate enough to do is get our kids to play a lot of basketball. I think when we first got here, a lot of kids were football and lacrosse, or football and baseball, or soccer and tennis, and they also played basketball when they got a chance. And since we've gotten here, we've gotten a lot more kids that are playing basketball as their primary sport. Even if they're multi-sport athletes and they play other sports, which is great, they've really spent a lot of time dedicating themselves to basketball. And that's really important, to be really good at basketball. Most of the time, you got to be really committed to spending a lot of time on it. And our kids have done that. And you know what? I think we came in at the right time. I think the previous coach, Mike Evans, put in a lot of time with the youth program. And I think, luckily for us, we're benefiting from that, because we've got a lot of kids that are pretty serious about basketball and pretty committed to basketball. So there's a lot of factors that have helped us turn it around. But, this is still a work in progress. We are by no means finished. We want to continue to build off the success that we've had. And we want to continue to get even better and make our program even stronger. So we're going to continue to work at that.
And you were named the FCAC Coach of the Year last year when you guys won the Division IV state championship. What would you say? What type of coach are you? Are you a really hands-on coach, or are you one that says, I'm here to guide you guys in the right direction, but it's your team, you have to take it the rest of the way? What type of coach are you?
I think I'm probably somewhere in between of those two. I am very hands-on, but at the same time, I understand that it's the players that win the games, not the coach. The coach can lose them, but the players win them. So, we try to put our kids in a position that's going to be the best position for them to be successful. And then we really try to let them be the ones to go out there and make the plays in order to do so. So we spend a lot of time in practice focusing on how we're going to defend things and focusing on how we're going to execute our offense. But then in the game, it's really, I try to be as hands off as I can in terms of letting kids make plays. You know, there's times, certain situations in games, certain situations late in games where I'm a little bit more, more hands on and control a little bit more of what's going on. But I try to be as hands off as I can, but still directing them in an organized way.
And then I guess take us back to those first days at New Canaan before the blow up of 2018 season. You know, you said you had to build a foundation. You had a little bit. Tyler Sweeney, I believe you had him his senior year in his first year here, and he's one of the better New Canaan players really of the last decade. A phenomenal scorer. But then you also mentioned that Coach Evans had a lot of hands-on work with the youth community basketball wise. And now this last season you've had Alex Gibbons, who came in and he started a ton of games, and Ryan McAleer as well over his career. And I know that you've talked a lot about Gibbons' growth with me as a player, but tell me when you first met those guys, and a lot of the guys who are your senior starters now, who you're graduating as your first official 4-year class. Tell us a little bit about the early days and those guys, and maybe the first moment where you're like, wow, I really do have something here in Nick Canaan. There's a lot of hope for the future, even though it took a few years to get there.
So when when I first got here, you know, I had a meeting with all the kids. I didn't know any of them, or I didn't know most of them, I should say. So you know, what was exciting to me was when we had that meeting, a lot of incoming freshmen. This was in the summer. School hadn't even started yet. A lot of incoming freshmen came, and that was a sign to me that there's some excitement about basketball in the lower levels. And so that was the first sign. In terms of being excited for the future, you know, watching the freshmen practice, watching the freshmen play games. Myself, Mike Macchio, who was our assistant varsity coach at the time, we were both very hands-on with that first freshman group. Not too many freshman teams have their varsity and varsity assistant coaches going to freshman practices, but that was our approach early on. We really wanted to be hands-on with our first group, and them being as talented as they were was a good combination to go along with that. So we were very lucky that our first class, and really our second class, our junior class, is very talented as well. To have our first two classes so excited about basketball, but also really talented. They both classes have very good size as well, and athleticism, which are things you can't teach. So you combine all those things, and it was really a lot of fortune for things to fall into the right places for us. But you know, it was something that we really dedicated ourselves to early on, was making sure that you know, we build this program from the bottom, which is from the freshman program on. You know, now after a couple of years, I've started to get more and more involved with the youth program. I'd like to get even more involved, but you know, it's very difficult for me. Like I said, we were very lucky that everything kind of fell right for us. My first senior class, when I first got there, you know, to their credit, you know, we weren't successful in terms of wins and losses, but we were very successful in terms of showing the younger kids how to do it the right way, how to play hard every day, how to compete in practice every day. And it's hard to do that when, you know, you're a senior, you're playing for a new coach, you haven't won very many games your entire career. To go out there and still compete at the level that they competed and play as hard as they did every single day in practice says a lot about those seniors. And even though our record didn't demonstrate that, you know, that was very important for our building of the future, was that these young kids learn from the older guys. And then our following year, same thing. You know, we didn't have much success at all in terms of wins and losses, but our senior leadership was so strong that year. They really built a team. This is a program. This is not just varsity and JV and freshmen, but we're all a program together. That was something that the Cam Nelson and Alex Galvan and Jake Sloan really did an excellent job of building team chemistry. And you know, I didn't understand how important that was until I saw it happening right before us. What they built that year was so important for our future. And you saw the fruits of their labor the following year with our state championship run. I mean, you guys, I'm sure, would agree. One of our biggest, you know, advantages over other teams was how well we played together and how much we liked each other and how unselfish we were and how we were all winning was the most important thing, and that was a major element to our success. But that began the year before, with those seniors really showing us how to do it. So, we've had a lot of factors for our success. It's not just what you see on the court, but all the things that have happened leading up to that point.
And going back to a little as a player, and then you can touch on your coaching. What defined success for you? Are you a success in numbers type of person, or is it if you feel confident, you guys feel like you guys left it on the court, is that successful, or are you all about the numbers?
In terms of what, winning and losing?
Yeah, winning, losing, rounds and playoffs that you made. Are you like that person that looks at those numbers and say that's successful, or are you more about the stuff behind the numbers?
I think there's a lot of elements to success. Certainly winning is a major factor in that. But as an educator and as a coach, my number one priority is to make a positive impact on my kids' lives. And I think some of them probably appreciate that now. And I think a lot of them will hopefully appreciate that maybe in a few years or many years down the road. I'm a difficult coach to play for. I'm very demanding, very hard on the kids, but it all comes from a good place. It all comes from a place of passion and caring and love. And I hope that players who have played for me both this year and any year will look back on their time playing for me and appreciate that and understand that. And that's why I do what I do. I don't coach simply to win games. I coach because I care about kids and I want to have a positive impact on their lives. And I think that's how when I'm all done coaching, whenever that may be, that's how I'll measure the success. What kind of impact I've left on kids.
Yeah, I think that's a really powerful message. And, I think a lot of it is hindsight too, as you mentioned, is right now they might, especially the kid might be like, oh, well, we weren't able to complete our season, or, oh, we didn't win that game or that game. But maybe in 5-10 years down the road, when they're in a similar position you were earlier in your career as an adult or your life as an adult, they'll realize like the lessons they learned here, like you did in your high school days in Stanford. When you played. And I know we love talking about basketball, but I was looking at your Twitter and I realized, why not? Let's talk about a little bit about football. You're a big Ravens fan, aren't you?
I am a big Ravens
fan. Why Baltimore, if I may ask? We got the very successful Giants and Jets winning.
Yeah, okay, Ian.
Okay. Just friendly, but why Baltimore? Especially now they're hot. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I grew up a St. Louis Cardinals baseball fan and a Cleveland Browns football fan. My father likes both teams, so I just hopped on the bandwagon of whatever my father rooted for. So when the Browns left for Baltimore, which is probably before you guys were even born, I became a Ravens fan. The Browns then ended up coming back, I think maybe 2 or 3 years later as an expansion team. My father actually went back to the Browns. I did not. I stuck with the Ravens. So I've been a Ravens fan since the day they became the Ravens, and I haven't left. And you know what? They're very successful. I was skeptical of Lamar Jackson initially when they drafted him, especially trading up to draft him. But he has proven myself and a whole lot of critics wrong. I know he still has some critics out there says that he hasn't won in the playoffs yet, but he's 22 years old, and I'm really excited about what he brings and the excitement he brings. He plays with a passion. He looks like he's genuinely having fun out there, and it's a lot of fun to watch him play. And I'm looking forward to cheering for him for many years to come.
And quickly, 30-second elevator pitch to young kids choosing, do I play basketball, baseball, football? What is your elevator pitch for someone to play basketball in the new Canaan system and in general?
Well, my pitch to them would be to play all of them. Don't just play basketball, play all the sports. All the sports are great. My pitch for why they should play basketball as well is that it's a program that is on the up and up. We're going to hopefully continue to be more successful every year, and our kids enjoy it. They have a great experience, and they're going to learn a lot. They're going to work really hard, and hopefully they're going to really get along with each other and have a lot of fun. So But I wouldn't pitch a kid to only play basketball. I would say it's important to play all the sports and enjoy your opportunity to play as many sports as possible, because eventually you're not going to have that opportunity anymore to play in an organized setting. So while you do have that opportunity, if you enjoy all the sports and you really want to play all of them, you should.
Well, I mean, definitely we've seen what, hopefully the success you've had over the last 2 years can continue if kids continue to make basketball that number one priority. And we saw, obviously, 2018, you guys go over 2019, you guys go up to Mohegan and you won against Granby. And that's a huge boost for the program, obviously. First state win since 62. And then this season, unfortunately, you didn't get the chance to go where you wanted to with the winter season going down. But you ended on that big win against Bloomfield. And, I guess very quickly, tell me, I guess also in a hindsight, like looking at it then, how did you feel about that game? Because I know it was a back and forth game that was a little ugly from time to time, but you pulled out with the win. And looking back at it now, realizing that it's the last game for both seniors, how do you feel in the moment that was, and how special it was to wrap it up with that win, just very quickly?
Yeah, I have a fun fact for you. I gotta think. This isn't. I don't know.
I know where it's
true, but this is true about us. We have won our last game all 4 years we've been here.
I did not know that. Oh,
and I don't know that there's any other team in the state that can say that.
Well, I wish I could.
Because very rarely do you. The only way you end your season on a win is either by winning the championship, the state championship, or by winning your last game and not making the playoffs.
Yes.
So our first 2 years, we won our last game, didn't make the playoffs. And then last year we won the state championship. And then this year we won against Bloomfield in our first round of state tournament. So all 4 years we've headed into the next season on a winning streak. So that's a little fun fact for you. I really feel for these seniors. Cortland, you too, not just from an athletic perspective, but from everything that's going on. Senior year is a special year in high school. And so I hope for their sake that we can get back to some normalcy sooner rather than later. And hopefully they'll get to graduate and go to their senior prom and do the things that seniors do. And I feel for them because, this is a special time in their lives. That being said, to win on our home floor on our last game there, I'm glad the seniors got to go out that way. They didn't know it at the time that was going to be their last game, but I'm glad for their sake that they got to end the right way.
Well, thanks for saying that. I'm sure all the seniors will appreciate that. We've had a wonderful time talking to you. When we were talking about this, you were one of the people that we wanted to right away, just because you're so enthusiastic about the program, and you've really turned this program around from a few years ago. So thanks for joining us. Ian, any closing words?
Well, I'm happy, I guess, that I'm not a senior in a sense, because I'll get to cover this team for one more year. And I'm really happy that I walked in on the success you had last year in a sense. I kind of just first year commentating and I just stumbled into it. And it was an awesome team to cover. It was great this year. And a big thing of what you've done here is revitalize the culture of, showing up on a Monday or Friday night to a basketball game. And the kids are chanting for you and the team. And I know you like to feed off that energy, and we will all be feeding off of it next year. So thank you so much for coming on, Coach. And
listen, like I said from the start, I really appreciate you guys, first of all, having me today, but more importantly, all the support you guys have given us, all the coverage you've given us. You talk about the kids coming to the games, and that's awesome. And that's just an extension of what you guys do and the coverage you guys bring us. So we're very grateful for you guys and for your entire TV station. Cortland, I know I speak for a lot of the people that they're going to miss you. We're going to miss you. A lot of the stuff you do is behind the scenes, but I know how many times a day you come to me asking me for the key to get into the closet. So I know how much work you've really put into this station. So we really appreciate everything you've done. Ian, you're awesome. So we're lucky to be able to see you again next year. And thank you again. I really appreciate everything you guys have done.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. All right. And that concludes episode 2. Thank you very much for watching.